I recently decided to check out the graphic novel War Bears from the local library because the plot was written by Margaret Atwood, whose previous book, The Handmaid's Tale, I had read years ago. This graphic novel is a reprint of a 3-issue limited comic book series that Margaret Atwood worked on with illustrator Ken Steacy, and it's different from her previous work. In the early part of the 20th century, Canada had imported all of its colored comic books from the United States until Canada's entry into World War II in 1940 had changed all that. As a result, Canada had passed the War Exchange Conservation Act, which prohibited imports of non-essential goods from the U.S., and comic books were considered to be non-essential goods. This sudden ban on the importation of American comic books had created a vacuum that resulted in a few Canadian entrepreneurs forming their own comic book companies where they printed their own original comic books, especially for Canadian audiences. These comic books' heyday ended soon after the end of World War II, when the Canadian government allowed the importation of American comic books once again. War Bears focuses on an aspiring artist in his early 20s named Alain, who lived in Toronto in 1943 with his French-Canadian mother and Polish immigrant father. His 2 older brothers had been drafted to fight in the war, but the Canadian military rejected Alain because of his poor eyesight and having asthma. Alain found a job with Canoodle Comics when he was hired as a replacement for another artist who was abruptly drafted into the military. After spending time doing grunt work for other artists, he managed to convince the owner, Gloria Topper, to publish his original story featuring a half-human, half-bear werebear superhero known as Orsinette. That character soon resonated with Canadian comic book fans as she battled the Nazis in each issue. I really enjoyed that book because it gives a feel for how the people on the Canadian home front dealt with the intense stress related to the war. The illustrations by Ken Steacy are incredibly expressive, with many of the scenes reminiscent of the film noir movies of the 1940s. One cool feature is that the story would alternate between what the people who worked with Canoodle Comics were going through in their lives, with the black and white pages of the Orsinette comic book series providing a story within a story.